Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I've been sitting here drinking coffee, reading through my messages, and I just had a short conversation with an online friend on Facebook. And I found it really amusing, and I thought I would share it with you guys. It's the sort of question people ask me all the time with strength standards and things he goes, is it possible for someone to bench 170 kilos natty? And I really hate questions like that. And his reason for his question was completely different than most, which I'll cover in a minute because it's really funny. I just got his answer as I was setting up the camera. I reached over and saw that he messaged me as to why he was asking the question. Because I asked him, why are you asking me this silly question? Hold on, Jack is trying to get up here. Say hi to the camera, Jack. And I really hate these questions because it's such an absurd question. Because obviously there are plenty of guys out there who have benched 170 kilos or more without any drugs. It does happen. It's extremely rare. But just because it's rare in a population of 6.5 billion doesn't mean hundreds of people haven't done it. It's the only point is that they would be benching more if they were on drugs. It's not that it hasn't been done. But the question becomes, does that really matter in light of the fact that most people who use steroids can't bench 170 kilos, overwhelming majority. In fact, I've been to enough untested powerlifting meets and talked to plenty of guys, and there are plenty of guys on steroids competing at meets who are over 200 pounds, means they're over 90 kilos, who've never benched 170 in a competition. There are thousands of them out there who've never done it. Yet I've also met drug-free guys who I know or feel, because I knew them personally, they were drug-free, who have benched more than that. And even more ironic, it comes down to genetics and time. The majority of people do not have the genetics to do that. But just because one person doesn't have the genetics, or most of them, it doesn't mean that there aren't a few out there who do. And I'll give you guys a perfect example of someone I know who doesn't have the genetics, even though he's a big guy. He's been training for many years. I know a guy, and I've spotted him on reaching his 160 kilo bench. It's taken him over 30 years to get there. And I'm not talking about some small guy who can't gain muscle. I know a guy, he lives here in Shelton, a friend of mine, started training when he was around 18, and when he was 49, he's 50 now, I spotted him on it. When he was 49, that's 31 years of training, he has been consistently adding, about every 5 years, he puts about 5 kilos on his max bench. He tries to max his bench about once every 6 months to see where it's at. And he's been doing that way for about 20 years straight. And he's a big guy. Now, this is a guy who's never done drugs in his life. And at 50 years old, if he were to diet down lean, most of you guys would think he's on drugs because his fat-free mass index would be at the upper threshold after 30-something years of lifting. And lifting heavy. This guy does straight power building. He trains 6 days a week. He does no isolation movements, just big compounds. And he does high volume. This is a guy who trains about 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. And he eats huge amounts of food. No supplements, just piles and piles of food. And it's taken him over 30 years to get to that 160 kilo bench. He's never regressed. This isn't a guy, he got weaker as he got older. It's just that about every 5 years, his strength, he gets about a 1% strength gain every few years. And it's just gone up, up, up. And then, in his 40s, he got to 150 kilo bench press. And then I spotted him when he hit his 160. And it's taken him that long. So when you put things like that in perspective, it's such an absurd question because you can't answer questions like that. And people are asking because they want to know, can I do it? Well, I can't tell you if you can do it. You just have to go out there and train and do it. And don't use that as your reason for why you want to use drugs or not. If you want to use drugs, that's your own business. But an argument like that shouldn't be your reason for doing it. And that's usually what people want to know. They want to know what their limits are. And I can't tell you what your limits are in terms of strength. Strength is very genetically based in terms of leverages and muscle fiber distribution. What I can tell you is that anybody can get stronger than they are now. Even drug-free, wherever your strength is now, if you work on it for a couple of years, you can get stronger than what you are. That's the only fact I can tell you. So if you've got to a 150 kilo bench drug-free, or a 160, you could probably get to 170, but it's a question of, are you willing to put in another 10 years to get there? That might be what it takes for you. So that's the answer to the question. Now, the ironic part, the funny part to this Goes back to a point I always tell you guys of, because someone says they're natty and they believe they're natty, doesn't mean that they're drug free. It doesn't mean maybe what you guys think of as natty, and that's a big thing in this community. This guy asked that because he said, I'm up to 170 kilo bench press after 6 months of blasting steroids. I'm cycling off now. I'm going to do straight PCT, but the whole time until my next blast, I'm going to run growth hormone. And I just wanted to know that since I'm natty, will I be able to maintain that 170 kilo bench press? And that, my friends, is what you will find that in the lifting world and in the hardcore training world, what people call natty. If I am not currently taking any anabolic steroids, I'm just using other drugs to keep my testosterone levels elevated by my body producing it, and I'm taking growth hormone or peptides, I'm basically natty. And they think of themselves as natty. They're not on any anabolic steroids at this exact month. And as fucked up as that might sound to you guys, that is the prevailing logic among juice heads. They'll actually really think of themselves as natty in that situation, and they'll just tell people they're natty. And if you gave them a damn lie detector test that was accurate, they would pass it because they believe that they are natty. Alright guys, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time. But let me give you guys a bicep shot before I go. Oh, Mount Bicephalus.